Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
With Lululemon, the real gift happens when they're living in it. When you give the fan favorite everywhere belt bag, the real gift is... And when the ultra soothing rest feel slides are the gift, you're really giving them... This holiday, Lululemon makes it easy to give little luxuries that go beyond. Open the moment. Shop now at lululemon.com.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
And let's talk about what lessons about.
Let's hang out.
And let's listen to two lesbians shout.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Hang Out, a podcast hosted by two women who may or may not look queer. And from the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida.
And from the West Coast, I'm Lee Holmes Foster.
And welcome to episode 18, Inside the Black Triangle.
This episode, we are super excited to be joined by Rachael Zimmerman. She's a photographer behind Inside the Black Triangle, which is a photojournalism project exploring queer women beyond societal stereotypes. So thank you, Rachael, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about this project. Let's just jump right in to Inside the Black Triangle.
All right, so I started the project 2 years ago. It was actually called something different, but it has evolved and changed a lot in 2 years. The Black Triangle was used in Nazi Germany to categorize atypical and asocial behavior. So queer women fell into this awful symbol. Obviously, at the time, you had to wear it on your clothing. So in the 60s and 70s, feminists and lesbians reclaimed the symbol to be solidarity and pride, which is really awesome. And I think it's really important that we continue that conversation and that we know our history, because if we don't, then we're going to repeat it.
So you said it started 2 years ago. What was it called then?
It was called What Does a Lesbian Look Like? So it was more focused on the stereotypes behind being a lesbian. My inspiration stemmed from a lot of my personal observations and experiences. At the time, I was living in Vail, Colorado. It's a ski bum town. A lot of guys have long hair. I was constantly being misgendered, and after a while, it was getting to me because I was treated so differently. To be shoved around at concerts isn't really my favorite thing. So it kind of got me thinking, people really don't understand, in the heteronormative world, don't really understand what it is to be gay. So I thought we could start a conversation there. And then I kind of started looking at our own community and was like, hey, we're really doing a lot of preaching of equality, but I'm seeing a lot of inequality within our own community. So I really wanted to explore that.
Very cool. You talked a little bit about inequality within our community, right? And I think I actually did a photo shoot with you when I was in Denver, which was super cool
awesome.
and awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. We did talk a lot about the division within our community. We had a really interesting conversation, so I would love if you would just talk a little bit to our listeners about some of the things we talked about this gender hierarchy that we see in our community and why you think that exists.
Yeah, definitely. You hear girls that are androgynous or butch claim to be gayer than other women, which is almost laughable. Just because what does our sexuality have to do with how we dress, what our hobbies are, our personal preferences and personality? They really don't. But we've kind of clinged on to the stereotype that society's put out there for us, that we're woman-loving, softball-playing dykes. And that's just really not the case. We're so much more diverse than that. So actually, when I started the project, I was like, where am I going to find the most diversity within our community? I can't go to the same bar, can't go to the rugby field. It's all the same kind of people. So I went to Tinder. So I was like, this is where everyone is, whether you're purple or green or you like this or whatever else. So I think it's really important that we talk about the inequality, because it's terrible that a feminine woman, when she comes out, goes to a gay bar, and not only every day in society is she questioned, you're not really gay, you're too pretty to be gay. But then she goes to her own community and the girls are like, are you sure you're not bi? And so what if you are bi, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that really changes how people act. And we already have such a challenge living in a heteronormative world. And we really talk about how supportive and on board everyone is in the community. And I'm just really not seeing that.
Okay, but wait, you went looking for diversity, and you're saying the answer to that question wasn't Vail, Colorado?
It was not Vail. It was not Vail, Colorado. There's actually probably only like 10 queer women living in Vail. So after 4 years, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need some ladies in my life. Yeah, it's cities, obviously, just more people and such. Colorado's actually pretty white. So I've had a tough time sometimes finding women that aren't just all white and look the same. So I've traveled a bit too, which has been pretty cool.
Is the project primarily U.S. based, or is it international?
It's been international. I went to Chile. I was actually fortunate enough to go to Easter Island on a photo shoot and happened to stay with a friend of a friend for a little while. Thanks, Kelly and Gabs, if you're listening to this. And it was really awesome because I went to Tinder and I met some really great people, and Gabs helped me with my Spanish. It's pretty elementary, and I was able to really get a feel for what it's like to be gay there in a different culture. And then again, I did the same thing in Cuba, which was a lot more difficult because, you know, it's a communist country still, and the internet doesn't really exist, and there's not Tinder. So I met these pedicab drivers and hung out with them for a day. And by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of their friend, so I can ask them, what's it like to be gay here? Are there people out? And he was like, yeah, there are people out. You should go to the gay club tonight. And so I brought some of my friends along, and we go to this place, and it looks kind of like a compound. And I'm like, oh, God, this is weird. Like, I don't know if I'm in the right spot. I'm, like, walking up, and two, like, big figures are, like, coming out of the dark shadows. I'm like, oh, God, I'm so screwed. My Spanish is not good enough for this. But was able to, like, get through it with them. They're like, yeah, come back for the party. So we're all, like, hanging out with my friends in a public park, and then this bus just stops, and it's just, like, all the gays, everyone, trans, like, drag, everyone's there. So, like, run up to the first queer girl I see, and I'm, like, poorly speaking Spanish, and, like, I'm a photographer, I'm doing this project, like, basically tell me all of your life.
Yeah.
And she did, and it was great. We kind of used notes back and forth on our phones. We were able to translate and took her picture and had a really good time, but it was cool to hear her story. She was really open. She had left home at 19. And I think probably I would say, if I had to compare in their culture, because it is a different country and, you know, it's communist and it's a little bit scary, or it could be, she really wasn't accepted by her family. And it wasn't just like, oh, it's not okay with me. It was like, you can't live here. The LGBT community became her family, rather. So I think, you know, with the adversity that she had to overcome, it really changed the way she was treated in the community. Not to say that we don't do that here, but I think it's a little bit different.
Have you had any people in the U.S. who have had similar experiences that you've taken pictures
Actually,
of?
I just spoke with someone who grew up in I guess her dad was a preacher. Grew up around the church very closely, and as soon as she came out, she was like, couldn't go to the church anymore. And I think things have kind of changed for her a bit, but I would say there's definitely people whose parents are not okay and have had hardships. And I think those are the people that really find solidarity within the community. And I think that's great. But I think since the world has changed so much that people are more open, that sometimes we're like, oh, we're just normal again, and we don't have to treat each other any better than any other group. But at the end of the day, it's like, the only example people have of us is how we treat each other. And if they see that we're doing the same thing, why are they going to take us serious?
You know, how much do society and the media and things like that, like, shape our idea of what, you know, what does it mean to look queer? What does that look like, you know? And so I'm curious, when you go to other countries, and especially countries like Latin American countries, or countries that are a lot more heavily influenced by things like religion, and specifically by, like, Catholicism and stuff like that, you know, I'm curious, like, does that, when you have a whole busload of queers unload, like, do you see the same range of expressions that we have here? Do you see, you know, people kind of trying to pass a little bit more in some way? Like, I'm just curious how that affects like the range of what you find.
I would say in Chile, I went to a gay bar, had a really great time, but I would say that femininity is like more acceptable in the queer community. So yeah, a lot of feminine women dancing, having a great time, and I'm like, hell yeah, I like some feminine women up in here having fun. But then there's definitely the dapper girls who have their shirts buttoned all the way up and, you know, look good in their own right. Yeah, but I think it's sad, you know, we don't have, unless you catch eyes with someone, we don't necessarily know if you're gay. So I think that for so long, because it was a stereotype that, oh, we have short hair and whatever, that people really got used to that and then felt like they have to fit that norm, especially in America. Oh, you're not wearing flannel, you must not be gay.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about this many, many times. So, like, I live in Boston, and the amount of flannel that I freaking see here, I'm just like, ladies.
It is actually a requirement, right?
It must be. I think once you like cross the border into Massachusetts, you automatically your flannel collection like triples.
Oh yeah.
You're actually not allowed to sleep with another woman unless you're wearing flannel at the time. I think it's a Massachusetts state law. Yeah. It's just a weird one on the books from like 1890s or something.
Yeah, very puritanical. But like, I don't know. I, as a more femme presenting lesbian, a lot of the times in queer spaces, I feel like I'm overdressed or like overdone up when literally I like tone it down and still try to look good by wearing like a leather jacket and a tank top rather than a flannel. And like, it's like, I'm so like overdressed in a queer space. And I don't know, I just think it's ridiculous. Like, I also just want people to like up your fashion game, ladies.
Yes, seriously. Not everyone has to wear a snapback. I think a lot of times I go out and I just see like little gaggles of people wearing the same clothing.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, if that's your style, that's your style. But I think it's important to be unique and we don't all have to conform to the same thing. That's what's so great. Like, we're open to everyone. We're open-minded people. So let's be that way.
Yeah. I think that idea of like people can be unique, I think is such an interesting thing because we're so like, we're gay, we're different from everyone else, but within our community, you all have to be the same.
Totally.
You know? So it's like, once you find your label or your group, then you're like, okay, but now I need to conform to this group.
Right.
Like, I'm not conforming to heteronormative society, so let me conform to what it means to be in the LGBTQ community, what it means to look queer, what it means to act queer, be gay, like you said, be as gay as you can. What does that even mean?
Well, and it's so fascinating, too, because I wonder how much of it is, like, I mean, in the U.S. right now, you know, we're for a lot of people, and I think especially, you know, if you're in, like, cities, metropolitan areas, you know, where, like, it is mostly going to be accepted, you know, I mean, not to, like, downplay the struggles of the queer community still, but I mean, I feel like there is this desire right now to like stand out, like kind of exactly what you were just saying, Ellie, to like look different than the straight world, you know. And it's funny how it does, like, anytime you do that within a group, that kind of becomes its own formed identity of, you know, and so now you have to look like this, you know. It's kind of like where like punk started versus like where punk is as a style now, you know? It's like, it started as like the anti-everything, and now it's like, okay, and here are the rules, you know?
Yeah.
To like dress in a way that's like not the norm, you know?
Yeah.
But it's its own norm.
Yeah. And then not the norm becomes the norm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that we want to be identifiable. You know, we don't have a rainbow flag on our face.
Unfortunately.
Like, we want someone to be like, oh, she knows that I'm gay, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, imagine if we all put a little bit of our own personal flair to things, how more quickly we would progress in fashion and in whatever it is. Just because if you use your own brain, other people are going to use theirs, and then they're all going to come up with crazy ideas, and It's just going to be better.
And it's funny, like, you say we don't have a rainbow on our face, but it's like, you know, then you do sort of have to come up with the ways of, like, how do you femme flag? And what are the, like, recognizable signs, you know? And then straight people take those as well. And they're like, look, it's my accent nail. And you're like, no. Everyone's confused now. No one knows what to do.
Amazing.
Yeah, then one thing becomes an identifier, but then it's not. Like, I'm like, oh, I wear my leather jacket, but, like, other people wear leather jackets who are straight, or, like, I'm wearing my Converse.
Straight people are allowed to wear leather jackets.
And then I, like, see a girl with Converse, and I'm like, hey, no. Just, like, Converse. Sometimes people will say, like, why don't you just ask them? That always is, like, the hardest thing, to just ask someone if they're gay.
I mean, I feel like if they're gay, they're probably going to throw in some signs, too, at some point. Whether it's, like, the way they're looking at you, or people get offended these days. Everything's pretty offensive, so to just be like, hey, are you gay? Mm-hmm. Like, I get why that's hard or uncomfortable, and they're like, no, and then the conversation's over, and you're like,
plus,
well,
if you ask Ellie,
later.
All girls look at her that way. It's just, you know, you can't avoid it. So.
Exactly. It's hard for me. I'm like, you might be straight, but you're looking at me like you want to kiss me. I'm confused. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
You just have to have bubbly personality.
Who can meet you and not love you, Ellie?
Oh my God, stop.
So hard.
This is not what the conversation is about, okay?
So maybe what I'll do then is I'll ask, you know, we talked a little bit about how does it get interpreted to, like, look queer in Chile versus here. I'm curious, like, as you've been doing this and kind of going across the U.S. as well, you know, how much does that vary, like, geographically? Like, when you get these little pockets of, like, okay, and now everyone has to dress this way to look, you know, to look like you're queer enough, like, how much does that change, you know, from coast to coast in the Midwest, from, like, you know, north to south?
Yeah, I mean, I think it changes just based on each city. You go to LA and it's like, Ellie, you'd fit right in.
Yes.
You wouldn't feel overdressed. You'd feel good. You know, I think the girls in LA are probably putting a little bit different amount of effort into what they're wearing and who they're with and that sort of thing. I'd say Colorado definitely has a style. There's the, like, bros or whatever you want to call them, usually wearing some sort of jogger pant, snapback, I don't know, tee, whatever, something pretty casual. But yeah, I'd say it definitely changes based on where I am in Colorado. I've been doing most of it in Colorado because I'm based in Denver, but it's such, no one's from Colorado that lives in Colorado now. So you get a mix, but I think people kind of conform to.
Well, and Colorado's kind of, you know, booming these days too. So I'm not surprised that you're getting, like, you know, as you get this influx of people, you know, you're going to get a range of people. I mean, I think it's the beauty of humanity is we're not all the same, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and there's,
In theory.
there are a lot of queer women in Denver. I feel like everywhere. When I went to visit my friend Alexa there, we went to, it was First Saturday or something?
Oh yeah, First Friday at Tracks.
Yeah, First Friday at Tracks.
You can get lost in there.
Yeah, it's this huge warehouse just full of queer women. Like,
Yeah.
it was gigantic.
I think they estimate like 1,500 queer women every First Friday. But then outside of that, and Ellie, we've had this conversation before, there's not a lot going on. There might be one event every year, and it's like, or every month rather, and everyone's just wasted. Why is everyone so wasted? Can't we do anything where we're not drunk? That's another thing I see is, like, it's just, our community can be such a party culture. Where do you find your niche? Where are the people that want to take pictures with me besides Tinder? Right? Who wants to go hiking? Who wants to go explore the city? Who likes food? Who likes this? You know? When really it just kind of becomes like, who wants to get fucked up and dance and hopefully go home with someone?
Yeah.
Which I think maybe is like an age thing. I'm still in my
I think
20s,
it must be.
Right?
I mean, because it's also something that I've noticed, like, I mean, this past year where I haven't been drinking, it, like, you notice it starts to stand out, and it's like the not drinking throughout the pregnancy hasn't really been, like, a huge deal for me, but, like, I noticed, like, for my birthday this year, you know, my wife was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, what do you do with a group of people if you can't drink or, like, do any strenuous physical thing? I'm like, what what are our options?
Movie night.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know anymore. What happens when you do? So yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm curious, actually, I would be interested to know, like, age-wise in general, like, do you see, like, how many people have you photographed of, like, different generations? Because I think
Right.
there's such a huge difference in what it meant, like, what it means and what it's meant to look queer, dress queer, you know, generationally as well, that I think is vastly different, you know, now versus, like, you know, 10, 20 years ago even.
Yeah, definitely. Things changed so much in the last 10 years. I mean, I'm sure you guys were in high school when the slang was gay, and that meant shit. You know, you do not want to be that. And how that kind of made the gay community feel, and how people became homophobic. Like, I was homophobic because I simply didn't know anyone that was gay, and I grew up in an area that you weren't gay. No one talked about it. I didn't know what it was until someone really told me. Like, it wasn't a conversation in school that was healthy. There was no sex ed on it. It was just taboo. And now it's like, it's almost trendy, right? I don't know. So it's almost, you're cool. Like, it makes you different. It makes you unique. And everyone wants to be different and unique until they get to the group and they're all the same. Right? No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, I don't know.
It's true, though. I mean, I do feel like it is cool to be gay right now, which I think it sounds really stupid, but I feel cool being a lesbian.
Yeah, is it that it's cool to be gay or that you feel cool being gay?
Well, I don't know. I feel cool being gay.
You are cool, Allie.
Yeah. Because, like, I get to have a lesbian podcast and it's cool. Like, I literally get to sit here and just talk about being a lesbian and people, like it. So
it's my favorite thing lately when people ask what our podcast is. Like, if you meet someone new and you mention a podcast and they're like, what's your podcast about? And I'm like, being a lesbian.
Yeah. They're like, what's it called? I'm like, let's hang out, Grandma.
We talk about lesbian stuff. I don't know.
Anything
gay.
gay.
Anything gay. Yeah.
This is unrelated, but sort of goes back to one thing you were saying before. I'm just curious. Like, you said you have a girlfriend, right?
Yes.
So how do you navigate using Tinder for, right? I'm just saying, like, you're on Tinder to find photo subjects, quote unquote. But, like, you know, how do you navigate that?
And how do you do it without sounding like you're a serial killer?
Right? So when I started the project, I was like, just messaging people, hey, I'm doing this project, and I got a lot of people that thought it was spam or fake or whatever, and
yeah.
Jenny, thank you, Jenny. Not Jenny Schechter, Jenny. Jenny was my first feature, and she was awesome. We were both kind of nervous. Like, she was my guinea pig, and she showed up, and we had such a great conversation. She brought, like, a box of stuff she had collected from Europe, and she knew I was a big skier, and brought, like, all these different lift tickets, and she was just, like, so sweet, and we took a shot before we went in. Shot of whiskey, I think, before we went and shot the photos. And she, like, really was the first one to take that risk. And then once I had one, I think it was a lot easier to present that, like, link up my Instagram, and people could be like, okay, so this is a project, but I've definitely been kicked off of Bumble. Can't get back on Bumble. People have reported me because maybe they were upset that I didn't want to hang out with them like that, and they just, you know, am using Tinder in that way. But it's very explicit in my profile what I'm there for. It says I'm in a committed relationship and working on this project. Thank you, Kate, for being cool and trusting me. But yeah, mostly Tinder. And then once it started to get bigger, I had people hitting me up on Instagram, and then it's been a little bit different. Yeah, so at first it was really hard. It was weird. People didn't believe me. People thought I was, Craigslist killer or something.
So shout out to Jenny for being willing to be axe murdered potentially, and instead getting your photo taken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good on you.
The way that I found your Instagram is because you matched with my friend Alexa on Tinder.
Yes.
And messaged her, and, like, we're asking her to photograph her, and she sent me it, and she was like, you should have this girl on the podcast. And then I was like, wait, this is so cool. So yeah, because of Tinder, like, this is happening because of Tinder.
Yeah. I met my
think it's
girlfriend on
hilarious.
Tinder, so it's fine. It can be used for more than one thing. Just don't tell everyone. We'll all get kicked off together.
Yeah. I do love it, like, as a marketing technique. Or, like, when we first started the podcast, I was doing something similar. Honestly, because of you. Alexa was like, wait, you should do this. And I was like, yes, you're brilliant. So then I started, like, messaging people and being like, hey, can I ask you some questions about the podcast? And actually, it was useful.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was like, what do you guys want to see? Like, you know, it's like our entire target demographic is on Tinder.
Right there, yes,
Yeah.
at your fingertips. It's amazing.
So
It's crazy because, like, you go out to the bars and you're like, I know everyone here. And then you get on Tinder and you're like, where do you all hide? Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. It must be, like, hanging out with their cats, unless it's summertime.
Or their dogs.
Yeah, cats, dogs, either or.
All of the above.
But I wanted to get back to the generational question. I really haven't talked to a lot of people outside of our demographic. So mostly 20 to 30. I have spoken to a few moms have been featured and a few women in their 40s. But again, it's harder to find the older generation. They're not on Tinder.
Well, yeah, they're not on social
They're not
media.
on
They're
Tinder.
not on Tinder.
Yeah, so it's been harder. I've definitely gone up to lesbian couples in airports. Whenever I see, like, an older couple, I, like, run after them like a creep, which is totally fine. Like, that's how Megan Rapinoe was featured in the project I was shooting. Hannah Wilkinson on the New Zealand soccer team, and they happened to be playing the U.S., and so I got some good shots of Megan and, like, ran after her after the game and was like, yo, you gotta be in my project, and she was super nice and fun. So I definitely have to have a bit of a outgoing, weird personality and just, like, go up to random people and be cool with it, and, like, be ready for them to give me weird looks and be like, who is this girl?
Yeah.
But I just met my neighbors next door. I moved recently, and they've been together for 17 years, so I'm, like, working my way in.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, hi, nice to meet you. Can I photograph you?
Totally. I'm like, I need to talk to you now. I need to know everything. Especially because I know one of them has a kid, so I'd love to hear, you know, I think the older generation didn't really have a choice in a lot of ways. So a lot of them were married and had kids, and then felt like they were able to be who they are. So I think it's really important that we get the older stories too. And because, I mean, everyone has a story, and whether you look the same, grew up the same, you might relate in some way. And with that relatability, there's understanding, and with understanding, there's compassion. So not only is that for us, but of course it's for outside the community. They're like, someone's like, what do I have in common with someone who's gay? Nothing. But then they read their story or hear it and they're like, wow, actually, I had a similar experience. And then they might be more compassionate. So the more stories that we tell, you know, the closer we're going to get and more understanding and compassionate we're going to be, which I think is the main goal of this project. I think is just that I see so much potential in our community, and I see we are doing good in a lot of ways, and we've grown a lot. But I think we have a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah. And I know we have some older listeners, so if you guys wanna have your pictures taken.
Oh my God, Amy and Ellen. I love them so much. Shout out to Amy and Ellen.
Or, you know, if you have friends or something that you know of, get them in touch. Because, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so important to show the range and the diversity that there is, you know? It's interesting to me when we have discussions like this about, like, what is the thing that everyone tries to conform to within queer communities, you know? Like, what is the right way to look? Who looks more gay? You know, I think it's interesting that I feel like a lot of people would say it's kind of more either like butch or androgynous presenting, like that's gayer than being femme. But if you look in the media, like, and especially because so many of the gay characters in the media are still being portrayed by straight actresses, they don't always look super androgynous and or butch, you know? They tend to be pretty femme presenting a lot of times. And so I'm curious, like, how does that happen that we have this very opposite presentation in terms of, you know, what is depicted as gay and as queer on TV or in movies versus like what we all look at and see as like, but more queer is this, you know?
Yeah, I think that the media is probably just going for what's relatable and what's going to sell. A lot of people don't know androgynous or butch lesbians, and if you don't know something, you might be afraid of it or not understand it. I mean, what, Rachel McAdams is now playing a lesbian in a new movie. You guys know
Yes,
this, right?
Disobedience. I
Yes.
saw it.
Okay. Was it good?
It actually was pretty good. The sex scene is interesting. Positives and
Now I'm like,
No
I have
spoilers,
to watch
Ellie, no
this.
yeah,
spoilers.
no spoilers. But I thought it was pretty well done, actually.
Neither of them are super butch or androgynous in any way. I mean, they're like both pretty femmy women.
Which I think is great for, feminine visibility, but often invisibility, right? But there's so many gay people. Why can't gay people play themselves?
There's this movie also, it's called Princess Sid. I don't know if you've seen it. It was on Netflix, but it's like one very femme-presenting lesbian and another androgynous, more butch lesbian and their relationship. And I feel like I recognized when I watched it that it was different, I think, from a lot of the stuff we see in the media in an interesting way. You know what would be really, really different, which I cannot even think of one instance, is two androgynous women together. Either they play to the masculine feminine stereotypes,
Right.
or they play to two like ridiculously feminine women together in the way that like men envision in a porn, to be real.
Yeah.
I would be more curious to see two butch women together on screen.
Yeah.
Can you even think of any?
I'm trying here. I'm like, is there someone in the L word? All of the L word happened and that didn't happen one time. Like,
Someone's gonna let us know the one instance, right? Someone's gonna like hop on Twitter.
Honestly, please let us know, because I would love to see it.
let us know. But it is, and exactly what you were just saying, Rachel, too, about, like what's acceptable and what's gonna be popular, and it's like, right, of course, two pretty femme girls kissing, like what every dude wants to see on screen, like sure.
I want to see
Exactly.
it on screen, so I get it.
But we also want to see everything else on, like we want to see the whole range on screen. So yeah, absolutely.
It's very interesting.
I think our community still does conform too to the gender roles within relationships. As we're saying now, why don't we see any of the androgynous relationships? Are there that many? I mean, I have some friends for sure, but I think a lot of times we're still playing into the stereotype of the androgynous lesbian is going to fix the car and the feminine woman is going to iron her shirt. Maybe not to that
Iron her button
extent,
down.
but you gotta make me look good, babe. And why is that still happening? I think that we've limited ourselves in a lot of way when we do that. And I think one of the cool things, I had a conversation with someone recently, Kate Moreland was just featured, and she talked a lot about how she was given the opportunity to try all these different things. And so she's able to do a lot of different things, whether they're masculine, quote unquote, or feminine. And so I think a lot of queer women do have that experience as well. And that's given them an edge in their life to just be that much more rounded of a person. But at the same time, I still do see people conforming to those norms, which is fine if that's what feels comfortable to you, but it also feels comfortable because that's what you were taught. And is that really who you feel you are? So I just think it's really important that we continue to question our motives and ourselves and our community so that we can grow. If we're not introspective, then what are we doing? I don't know.
So you're mentioning some names and mentioning some people. I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit more about some of the shoots that you've done with people that have really stood out to you a bit. Like, what were some of the, what have been some of your favorite experiences from doing this project so far?
Oh man, I think I'm almost at 70 women featured, so I'm going to have to rack my brain for a second. One of my first shoots, I think she was like number 2 or so, Alex. She was really awesome. She talked about what it means to be queer. I think people get confused sometimes, and she originally came out as bisexual and then came out as a lesbian, and then she was in a relationship with someone who was transitioning. And so she's like, well, I'm still in love with this person, but what the hell am I? Like, I guess I'm not a lesbian. I don't know. So she prefers queer. And I thought that conversation really stood out in my mind 2 years ago when queer was kind of becoming a popular term. And I think it's great that people identify as queer. You don't label yourself so strictly. I think it leaves a lot more open for not only like sexual experiences and romantic experiences, but just how you live your life. So she was really awesome. All of my travels were really great.
I mean, obviously Ellie was just,
Ellie was amazing. I had
there's
so
the
much
top
fun.
Ellie, and then anyone
that was
else,
it.
and then a couple people down is Megan Rapinoe. Sure.
It was a lot of fun though. We had a really good time.
We had such a great conversation, and I had never photographed two people at the same time, so it like opened up another dynamic, just to like share in a different way and have different people's inputs. And we were like, "Damn it, we should be recording this right now."
Yeah. Yeah, we
but
did a
here we
shoot with
are.
my friend Amelia. So shout out to Amelia as well.
Yes,
And she was
Amelia
rocking
was
this
awesome.
white.
It's a nice coat that you found. What at the?
Yeah, we
you
went
guys
to. We
shopping?
were like, we're gonna do the photo shoot. Like, let's go to this vintage store. So we went to this vintage thrift store. I got this amazing leather jacket that I still wear like every other day, and Amelia got this like super, just like dapper white pea coat blazer.
Yeah, she was feeling herself. She looks so good.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And as we head into Thanksgiving time, I want to start by thanking my wife, Kelsey, who has not only listened to just about every episode of this podcast for 8 seasons now, but who also is the only reason I'm able to make time to record it every week. She takes the kids, gets them dinner, and gets them ready for bed just so that Ellie and I can come on and yell about gay things into each other's faces for an hour. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people you're grateful for in your life, including yourself. I've been in therapy for a long time now, and one thing that's so important about therapy is how it teaches you to be more intentional. And being intentional about gratitude and how to show that to the people you appreciate is just one of the many benefits that I've gotten from therapy over the years. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, consider giving BetterHelp a try. I know how hard it can be to find time for regular therapy, and BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and convenient for your schedule. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to start being more intentional about gratitude in your life, visit betterhelp.com/leshangout today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/leshangout.
Let's hang out.
You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, and when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. oh so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
She did. Yeah. And
she's like, I was like, are you gonna model? Like,
yeah.
For real, for real?
Yeah, she was killing it. And she found in her pocket, she found a bow tie. Like, there was like just a bow tie in the pocket, so she put it on for the shoot. Nice. It was amazing.
So Allie, I photographed her pretty early on in the project too. It was cool because I went up to Colorado Springs. We shot Garden of the Gods. It's really beautiful rock formations and park that's near the Air Force Academy. And she's in the Air Force. So we talked a lot about what it's been like for her. She was in ROTC before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was overturned by Obama in 2012. And what that was like for her. And it was interesting how lucky she was that she really never experienced any problems, which I found to be pretty interesting. I definitely thought that there would have been some backlash somewhere along the way. But for the most part, there wasn't. Shout out to Allie. I think she's deployed again. I shot with her the day before she went on her first deployment to Afghanistan, which is amazing. And she's a total badass. I don't know. There's been so many awesome people. I shot with Sherelle Moss. She's a professional snowboarder. She's in the Olympics, not this last Olympics, the one before, in Russia in Sochi. And she was kind of the first person to make a statement. A lot of reporters were asking her in the Netherlands, like, are you going to go because you're gay? You're really the only out snowboarder. And she was like, yeah, even more of a reason to go. You know, she's just got this awesome attitude, really amazing person. And so she's at Sochi, and right before a run, she's like flashing the cameras, her gloves that are rainbow. And so that was really the first big statement, which was really awesome. We just like hung out today. She was snowboarding. I was on my skis. We were taking pictures. We had Bloody Marys after.
Nice.
Yeah, LA was a lot of fun. It was a whirlwind. I photographed, I think, 7 girls in 4 days.
Wow.
But it was cool to just kind of see everyone in their element. Jordan Bamrick, she's awesome hairstylist. We had a lot of fun. People were just coming through, getting their hair cut, and that was a lot of fun. So, yeah, it's hard to really pick out a favorite. I've learned so much. I think this project has helped me grow a lot and being more open-minded and really taking a look at myself and how I can be better within the community. And
so you said a little bit towards the end, being better at the community. And I think a lot of our episodes, we really try to focus on this. And that is, we say we are lesbians, right? But we want to be open to the rest of the community, and we want to be a place where we can unite the community. So how do you feel like people listening can engage with the project in a way that unites our community?
I think, you know, if you're following the project on Instagram, everyone has a very unique story and they're very vulnerable and open. And I think that shows so much strength and really being honest of what your experience has been. And if you're there, just like show some support, show them some love, talk about it, have a conversation. Oh, I experienced this too, or I never thought of it this way, or really just engaging each other to be closer. How much fun is that to have an ally, someone that you've never met that lives across the country? Some of my greatest conversations, I've only talked to the person one time just because they live somewhere else, and stay in touch on social media. And I'm like, that's such a good person. Like every time I get a message from them, I feel good. I think that just because this project is really based on social media doesn't mean that it's not real. I think a lot of times people are only posting the good parts of their lives on social media, so it gets diluted and you kind of look at your life and you're comparing it and you're like, oh fuck, I'm not there yet, or whatever. But I think it's just so important to remember that we're all on our own journey and we can support each other along the way, and it feels so much better.
So I think we want to end on that note and move to our next segment, which if you've listened to the podcast before, we do a segment called Q and Gay. So they are just some, you know, kind of straightforward questions that we will ask you, and then we'll put them up on our Twitter as well and let other people chime in. So
Q and Gay.
Are we ready? Do you want to kick us off our Q and Gay?
Yes,
Ellie?
I will start it off. Question number 1 of our Q and Gay. Has anyone ever told you you didn't look like a lesbian? Yes or no?
No.
No?
Sorry.
Not even all those people that thought you were a dude?
Well, okay, the people that think I'm a dude, yeah, for sure.
Right.
I guess I'm just thinking about our community. No one in our community has been like, you don't look gay. Right,
Yeah.
but yeah, for sure. People think I'm a dude, especially like skiing and long hair. It's like a thing, but yes.
Okay, question 2. How do you personally identify more? As butch, femme, androgynous, or other? Write in your own option.
I guess if I had to go with your guys', I would say androgynous. I don't identify as like non-binary. I identify as a woman and a lesbian too. Yeah, but I would say
we're just talking expression.
Expression, I would say
separating gender identity, separating.
Okay, I would say I'm like.
What's your style more?
Yeah, androgynous. A little bit grungy. I do shower, but grungy's definitely in there. And then I'm an athlete, so I don't know. I like baggy clothes. Not that I wear like Nike all the time, but
a little bit of a sporty jock thing.
Yeah, little bit. More of like grunge.
Yeah, it's hard because I try to limit to 4 options for the Twitter polls, but I figured this was one that just needs an other, and we'll let people.
Yeah,
write
there's
it
a
in
lot of other options, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. What do you feel like you see presented more in the media? Butch, femme, androgynous, or other?
Feminine. Mm-hmm. It's either like super feminine or like the stereotypical butch.
Yeah, or like Big Boo from Orange is the New Black.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Question 4, slightly different direction. What's your favorite camera brand out of Kodaks, Canons, Nikons, or iPhones?
So actually I use the Sony, but if I have those options, I'm gonna go with Nikon. Okay. I've been using my girlfriend's camera a lot, and I'm like, damn, do I make the switch to Nikon? Do I do this? It's like a $5,000 switch here, but yeah, I'm getting ready for a new camera.
Oh, geez. All right, so you spend a lot of time behind the camera, obviously. Do you enjoy having your own picture taken? Yes or no?
Actually, I do. Done a little bit of modeling, but my girlfriend's also a photographer, so we collaborate a lot, and it's really easy to take pictures of each other. So yeah, I do. Not all the time. I have to be like prepared, but yeah, I don't mind it. I have fun.
All right, and for our listeners, remember you can give us your own answers to this episode's Q and Gay on our Twitter at LesHangoutPod.
So we want to say thank you again, Rachel, for joining us. It has been so much fun having you on and learning more about the project.
Thank you so much for having me. Rebuilding a website. So InsideTheBlackTriangle.com. It's coming soon. Check it out.
Great. And where else can people find you?
Inside the Black Triangle on Instagram and on Facebook, and then now .com. It's coming. Don't look at it yet. No, it'll be ready by the time this episode comes out. Cool. I'm remembering, so we're good there. Yeah, and Shopify you'll be able to order a tee. It's just a limited edition Pride tee. Yeah, so that's.
And you're going to be at Denver Pride too, yes?
Denver Pride, yeah, Denver Pride. I'm doing an auto straddle meetup, which will be really awesome. I'm going to do some interactive, fun, artistic things.
Great. And when is Denver Pride?
Denver Pride is June 16th and 17th. Sorry, dads, it is Father's Day every year. We don't have daddy issues, though. Like, we don't. I don't know.
Bring your dad to Pride and go check out Rachel's booth. Yes. There you go.
Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome.
Of course. And remember, you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at LesHangoutPod.
You can send us an email at leshangoutpod@gmail.com.
And check out our website at leshangoutpod.com.
If you want to help support the podcast, there are a couple ways you can do that. One of them that is totally free to you is to listen to us on Radio Public. We get paid listens. And all you have to do is go to bit.ly/leslisten.
And if you want to support us financially, you can go to our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/leshangout, and you can join us for Les Essentials viewing parties and get a lot of other cool perks.
You can also check out our merch. We also have some Pride designs going up that you should check out for any and all Prides that you may be going to. You can find that at bit.ly/lesshop.
And if you want to find us individually, you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at LSH Foster. Rachel, thank you again. This has been great.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Buffet brawlers, glory holes gone wrong, cannibalistic castration cabins, public poopers? These are just a few of the crazy topics you'll hear covered on Excuse Me, That's Illegal, the pettiest podcast around. Whether you need a break from all that murdery true crime stuff, or just enjoy hearing hilarious stories told in a unique way, I got what you need. I'm Leroy Luna, your fearless host/chauffeur. So come hop in my minivan and let's go for a ride. I promise you probably won't be disappointed. Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically everywhere you consume podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th of the month, baby!